Okay, let's see here. I have a special project here for you and me, if it works out. We have a half-page, 8.5 by 5.5 inch piece of rainbow holographic paper. This paper is extremely cheap, relatively speaking, okay? On sale at Michael's, these packs of 25 full-size sheets can be as low as about $3.33. I've seen it go on sale twice since I bought mine, which wasn't too long ago, okay? And I don't know, it seems like it was on sale like once a month at that price. Otherwise, I don't know, it's about five something or $6 for it's a Recollections pack. That is not bad, folks, for this type of dynamic surface. It's cheaper than some regular papers, I think, sometime. I don't know. Okay, so I am adding the Sukaneko Brilliance Fast Drying Pigment ink on here, okay? It's just all Brilliance pads are fast drying, okay? That's relatively speaking, okay? If you stamp them onto like a glossy cardstock, they'll dry, all right? On something like this foil, which is even less porous than something like a glossy cardstock, this will set up overnight for me, or you can just heat set it in like 10 seconds, okay? Other types of pigment inks are not designed to do that. They're designed to kind of dry by evaporation as well as absorption. Well, on non-porous surfaces, they just don't absorb, okay? So whatever type of solvent or whatever binder is in here, it allows it to dry. Okay, so that being said, you try other things. There's all kinds of different things out there these days. And a lot of it I'm not aware of, okay? I don't know, just new things coming out all the time. If you know something that can work, now see, you can use like a StazOn or something like that, but you can't really blend it around like I've just tapped on a good smearing of ink like that, okay? If I tried to do that with StazOn, I'd tap it two times, even like a white StazOn, and it's dry. I'm not spreading it around at all. Like, see this right here? I can still spread it. See it? So, see how I'm kind of wiping it off right there. I don't want to wipe it all off because I don't have to redo that, even though it'll just take a couple seconds. But that's, that's just the characteristics of the Brilliance inks. I need to get some more different colors. There's different colors out there. I only have like the kind of the metallics and the black and white. Okay, now here's my concept here. I've done this type of thing before on different foils, and I've done it on rainbow holographic. I don't think I stamped a scene. I think it was a butterfly. It was kind of a test print, as so many of my scenes are. They're kind of experiments, all right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this. This is the Milky Way Large. And the Milky Way Large is a reverse impression, okay? Stamp. I always used to see star stamps or things like that. Skies, moons, whatever. They were dark things in a sky because they were, like a star, like a black, pointed star. These are reverse impressions so that the things that are supposedly light sources are the lightest things in the sky. So they're defined by the area and tone around them. And I draw all my images. I don't know what it is, DPI, but it might be 100 DPI. There's 100 dots per square inch or so. And then I layer my layers like that so that when we stamp them out, instead of, this is what it'll look like if I, stamp it, well, this is like stamped on wood or something like that, but that's what it would look like on a white piece of paper, okay? But here we are. I'm going to try it on the glossy cardstock. I mean, the rainbow holographic, well, gloss papers, foil. I'm going to blot this off a little bit around the edge. That's, I don't have to do that, but that's what I have been teaching people to do. Especially, if you're kind of new to the line and you haven't kind of gotten the feel of the blending aspect of Stampscape stamps, and how you can overlap everything, okay? If things are linear, you can't do that, okay? If there's a bunch of lines in the drawings, it's not kind of a rendering, it's kind of more of a caricature of something like a rock or something like that. But my stamps are tonal, so you get one image like that, okay? And I blot it off around the edge, and I'm going to overlap this about maybe a ½ inch, quarter inch, eighth inch, whatever. But don't just do it edge to edge, okay? Like like a jigsaw puzzle, okay? This is a much easier process than that, okay? So here's that first impression, and I might go in here like that, okay? There's like a ½ inch leeway. I don't know if I'd go like an inch, that'd be a little bit too far, okay? I'll go like this, and I'm changing the angle slightly, okay? So when you go like that, you get this nice merging of your imagery like that. But look at that sky up there now. It's like a rainbow sky. Now I have these other areas in here that I'm going to be filling in. But here's my theory right here. If you've watched my other videos and you've seen that reverse impression type of thing, the ink lifting process, I'm going to do that down here. So these are positive images. It's black on surface. But I'm going to add a bunch of black ink down here, and we're going to lift that ink off to get reverse impressions below, positive impressions above. And we'll see how that works out. I think it might look pretty cool with the rainbow holographic. Okay, this is the cloud cumulus right here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe off. I'm wiping off about a ½ inch or so in here, okay? And then watch this. What you're going to do is you're going to come into your Milky Way stamp. I'm going in about a ½ inch to an inch or so. Now that's where I've laid out my white pigment ink, okay? Because I'm you could do this, and then you can have kind of like a rainbow cloud, okay? But I thought that might be a little bit much. I think it would be fine, but for my purposes, I want to go a little bit less, okay, of the holographic aspect. I want the holographic part to stand out in the stars as opposed to the clouds. In another scene, I might leave it just as is and just stamp the cloud in there and have the rainbow kind of shining through the cloud. And that might look cool too, but I think for me, kind of the use of rainbow holographic paper is it's just so visually loud and dynamic that I'm kind of taming it a little bit with the use of the white pigment ink. And the white pigment ink, you don't have to put it on smoothly. Mine's all blotchy. Let's see if you can see it right here, okay? There's no transitions or anything like that. I just kind of added it here and there. And I want it a little bit uneven. I don't want just a straight bar of it, okay? Because, I want a little variation here. So here's what this looks like right here on this side. See this? How I've blocked out a lot of that rainbow holographic area. Some of it goes into the cloud, a little bit, sure. Okay? But you can see how it's kind of blocked out there so that the excitement is right in, that kind of that galaxy portion. You can do the whole thing, too. If you don't have the cloud, you can do this whole thing up here, just with the Milky Way. Or you can put some white in here, and blotch it around so that it's not just all holographic in there. There could be areas that are blocked out in there. Okay? So there's all kinds of, variations you can do just on this one aspect of the card. Now, I haven't done this for a while, but, this is a really easy technique. And what we're doing right here, one of the things that's so easy about the rainbow holographic is that we're inherently starting off with all the color, all right? So there is just no need for additional colors. In fact, you can add them in there, but like I said, this is just already so dynamic. You got all the colors of the rainbow in the paper itself. So, no real need to add any extras. You certainly could if you want to. Okay. All right, and adding it down. Okay, I'm going to add some more clouds down here. I really don't need to, though, because what I'm going to do is fill that in with some additional tone, okay? Let's see if I think I used the white on that one. Let's see, let's grab another cotton ball here. Okay, or two. I think one will do. These are really cheap cotton balls. They're all flaky. Now, sometimes what I'm getting in my impressions, especially with such a large solid area like this right here, when you're stamping it onto this type of paper, this type of surface, it's almost like stamping it on glass. So you get with this, what I call a fisheye effect. See where it didn't stamp out right there? That is not a problem, because all you do is we're going to tone in anyway. You can just fill in like that, okay, and get some extra tones in there, like about like so. And you're all set. Now what I'm going to do down here is I'm going to bring all this color up here. The black, okay? And you want to get a pretty good saturation, or, you know, schmear of it. I don't know what a good term for this would be. But here's what I'm going to do here too. I'm going to add a little bit more down at the bottom of it, okay? Now, one of the things that I tend to forget, because I just forget about it myself, is I want to get a pretty good coating down here. But like I said, it's almost like you're putting an oil-based medium that's pretty thick. It's almost like using paints, you know, using pigment inks on something. But it's almost like you're putting it onto glass or something of that sort, okay? So it kind of beads. I think on a microscopic level it's kind of beading on here. So sometimes when I try to dab more, if I try to dab too hard, it's almost like you're removing ink on there, okay? Because it's not really adhering. It's just sitting on the surface. So see, if I just try to wipe it off, you know, if I try to wipe it on, it's just going to wipe right off. So you kind of have to bead it up. You're beading and you're building on that, okay? Now, at some point in time, if I want it a little bit darker and I want a bigger buildup, you just can't do it until it sets up a little bit. So what you do is you just kind of let that sit for a couple minutes, and then you can add more, okay? Now, if I touch any of this area right there, it's going to remove the ink as well, so that'll happen, okay? Just kind of expect that going into it and know what to expect, and you'll be fine, okay? But what I was getting at is, as this kind of sets up here, it starts to transfer and adhere to the paper a little bit. It'll never adhere a lot, though, okay? That's why we spray seal these afterwards. But as I add this in here like so, okay, it looks a little bit thin. There's a lot of the ink or the paper that's shining through, even in here, okay? But you let this set up a little bit, and it gets a little bit more tacky. And then what I do is I'll add more over the top of it. It starts to thicken and, I don't know, kind of dry. And you just kind of allow it to do so and go into it with your additional layers, okay? And then it fills in a little bit more. I was just telling someone that today. That's, you know, going to do the trick. And I said, oh yeah, by the way, watch for the buildup and addition, okay? Because sometimes you can start doing this and get frustrated. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not applying. I'm kind of removing it and it's not building up anymore. Or you go like this, and where your finger is right there, there's a lot more pressure, so you see your kind of finger in there. But we're not talking a long time, okay? It probably depends on where you are, the relative humidity and heat. I'm stamping in some, you know, a pretty hot room right now. I don't know what the temperature is. It's probably 80 degrees, at least Fahrenheit, right now. But it is building up for me pretty fast down here, okay? There might be a better way to add it on, too. I'm not even sure if the cotton ball is kind of the ideal thing. I'm kind of going for a soft application, so in, you know, my thought process is the cotton ball is one of the softest, you know, kind of materials out there. Okay, now here, see what I'm doing here is I'm kind of adding a little bit of a perimeter vignette. I don't want to block off everything, but I'm just kind of framing my clouds out a little bit more. Okay. Go like this, and oops, I totally scratched right there, and it scratched a whole line of it out. There's a better way to do this part. You put a Post-it note stuck to the back, and you grab the Post-it, and you're never handling this. Someone told me that on Facebook or something like that, and I thought, oh, that's a great idea, but sometimes I forget. Oh, here's a Post-it note right here. Yeah, you can see where I've used it before. So we're going to put this underneath here. Try to adhere that. Yeah, see, you can go like that. I don't know, it's not stuck. See, I should have done it before I started stamping on it. I don't know. I'll try to move it around with that a little bit. Okay, so anyway, adding this in the corners. All right. Now this kind of, at some point in time, this is irritating. I don't know, maybe this isn't sticky enough now. Here, I'll do this. I'll push this down strong right here in the black area. Yeah, okay, that works pretty good. Okay, now let's see. Let's see if I can build this up a little bit more. I hope you can kind of tell what's going on. But this at one point in time, on every one of these that I do, it kind of becomes a bit of a sloppy mess. Okay? Just kind of expect that going into it. And if it's not, then that's all the better. But I always kind of run into kind of a little bit sloppy. Okay, now I'm going to use some lighter touches in here just to kind of tame some of these areas in here with a little bit of tone. It's a little bit loud with the rainbow holographic like that. See that right there? But it's kind of cool though, isn't it? And it's going to get louder too once I do those reverse impressions down below. But okay, so we need to get a pretty decent amount of this down here. Okay, because I have some trees that I'm going to put in here. Might have been good to do them of horizontal. I don't know. Okay, so let's do this right here. Okay, so this is going to be strange for you if you haven't done this before, but it's really fun. In order to get my impressions of my stamps, now I'm going pretty bold here because it'll just stand out so much better on this, I feel. Okay. What I'm going to do, my impressions, is an impression or is it a lift? Or can a lift be an impression? Okay, so I guess it could be. I have removed all the ink off here. I was a little bit, kind of inky still, so I've removed it. So this is a pretty clean stamp, albeit very stained, okay? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have this a little bit at an angle too, like these trees are kind of going off into perspective, okay? It's like I'm laying down and looking up at the sky. You can do it just straight across too if you want to, but I think this will give a little bit more dynamic kind of feeling to it. Okay, I'm going to roughly aim this tree right up at that star. I don't know. You can pick any point in there. There's a couple little stars there. And I'm just eyeballing it, okay? I'm not going to take like a ruler or something like that and make sure that I'm aiming it, perfectly. Okay. So I'm doing like a standard impression like you would be, applying ink to paper or something like that. Here we're removing ink from foil, okay, but still, we still want to get a pretty decent lift, and that's how that looks right there. Look at that. Okay. Now I had my finger there, and I removed some ink right there on accident. It's like I said, anywhere you touch it, it'll remove ink. I'm doing a reverse impression with my fingers, in other words. Okay, so that is that. Let's go with another one. Okay. I inked up. I forgot. See, I have to think about this too, just like anyone else. We get into our habits, right? Okay, I need to resist that. I'm going to cover that pad up. Habits over the, course of a lifetime of stamping. Okay, let's see. I'm aiming for that star right there. Okay, coming up, higher. I'm coming up into my trees here. Okay, so I think it's, I might be going into the white area of the tree, so I don't know what this is going to look like. If it's going to remove the white and the cloud or not, I don't know. We shall see. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Now, I didn't really want the base of this tree down here, but I'm just I'll hit it again down here with some additional trees, okay? So it's like that. Okay, now every time you do that, kind of, clean off the ink off your stamp, otherwise you might not get a clean removal. Now, if you don't like some of these impressions, like, oh my gosh, I stamped that too high, just ink it over again, get your ink it up again, and just do it over again. This is it's like one of the most forgiving types of processes in terms of do-overs that you can get. I mean, what paper can you, just remove it and try it again, If I didn't like this whole thing too, you can take a paper towel, and this whole thing will wipe off practically, 100% clean. Okay, and let's see, let's go for another tree about like so. Okay. All right, so now this is looking down here. All right. Okay, let's go for a little bit of a change in texture. We have, out in nature, you always see kind of those dead trees amongst the living. All right, this is the leafless pines, large. All right, see that right there? Look at that. Okay, and now let's go with one more. I'll go over here. Okay, so I'll just go a little bit down, and I'm still kind of aiming it right at that, one vanishing point. You can call it a focal point or vanishing point. It's really more of a vanishing point. But it has all your trees going off to in the same perspective like that. All right, so we have that right there, okay. It's pretty dynamic. Now these trees, there's other options. I could have stamped those in like a silver brilliance or something like that, or white. And I think the white would look good down here too. As a matter of fact, I wonder if I should try a white one in here. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's try to add extra depth with an additional object in here, okay? It's kind of the repetition of form, though, so it's not going to be something totally unrelated. All right, so we're going to the brilliance, white, and if you're following me in terms of kind of visual continuity and whatnot, we've laid down white, and then we went black over the top of it. Now it's kind of, and we did the reverses in here too, but now we're going white over it again. So now kind of the black is sandwiched in between the application of white for the clouds and the impression of the tree. Okay? So, you're kind of working with the same, visual language here in terms of the color scheme, and that's how you bring, potential continuity. I don't know what this is going to look like over this, though. Let's take a look. Maybe it's going to get a little bit too busy. I don't know. We shall see. Okay. All right, now I'm holding this down a little bit longer in the hopes that some of this ink transfers over. It might look really busy or ugly too. Plus, I'm not sure how the white is going to stand up against that rainbow holographic, because the rainbow holographic paper is not very dark like a dark foil or something like that. But let's take a look. It's not too bad. I don't know if it looks like it's in front of those trees, though. Okay. But see, it's right down there. It's different. See, it's not. See, this tree right here, it's not like a rainbow tree, so it's, white in there. And it's kind of cool. Hmm. Now I'm wondering, talking about all that, I'm wondering if I should go for a black impression over that. Let's give it a try here. So we're just kind of layering, but you're kind of oscillating back and forth between your different colors, okay? Let's try something here. Let's try, okay, let's try some black tree in front of those. So it's like we were sandwiching things even more. But, okay, let me make sure I'm done. I want to make sure I'm done with my reverse stamping on here before I do anything, before I heat set. Because once you heat set, it can remove, but it's not going to remove, the inks aren't going to come off freely like they are when they're still wet. So let's go ahead and heat set it, or at least get it to set up a little bit, with a, heat gun. And are still wet, but they're not areas that I'm going to stamp over, so I'm not worried about it. But over here, you can kind of tell when it starts to, okay, let's see if you can see the difference here. Do you see how that's a lot blacker than down here? I don't know if you can tell in this video, where the camera's really picking that up, but the trees down here, I believe, are dry, because I've removed a lot of the ink down here, and that's the area that I'm going to stamp over, okay? But yeah, see that, how it's a certain type of black, and see how much darker that is? This is dried. So when you're heat setting it, if you can't tell when it's dry or not, it gets more of like a flat black than a glossy one, okay? Okay, let me counter bend this a little bit. When you heat set, especially this foil as thin as this, it starts to curl a little bit on you. Don't have it in one place for too long either. Kind of move it. Heat, hold and move, hold and move, hold and move. That type of movement on there. All right, let's see here. Let's see if I can get a good impression of this spruce tree again. Okay, let's see. Still pointing towards that star. And no, it's not exact. I might be off, a quarter inch or so up there. Yeah, okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. I'm creating a little bit more depth in there. Okay. Another tree here. Sometimes I never know. You just have to stamp it out and see what it looks like. And, if you want to add more, then add more. You let the piece do the kind of directing as you get to it. I wouldn't have things so set, because first of all, like, you might do this again, or I might do it again. I have more black down here in the next one, or less black down here. So I would just kind of eyeball things, okay? Now, I don't know, yeah, it's hard to tell, okay, what is this going to look like over the top of it without doing it, so I get it, about kind of not knowing. I don't know, what it's going to look like. I don't know how, a lot of times, how this ink is going to make an impression over all this other stuff, too. Now, just from experience, I just know if you're stamping wet into wet, it's not going to transfer on there very well. But as far as kind of the final overall look, I just don't know sometimes, so. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3 impressions like that. So see, it changed the spirit of it. It kind of anchored things out a little bit. These kind of having it wide open and, down here, it was too lightweight down there, so I put the black impressions back in there. I mean, you can do a black impression of this too, something like this going up in the sky. let's try that. Okay, let's keep this kind of this theme going in terms of the layering of imagery. Some of it's reverse imagery lifting off, and some of it is a positive imagery being added in. Okay. The dead trees are often, the ones that are high because they got struck by lightning. They're so much higher like that. See that right there? So here's our trees like so. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. It's kind of weird looking. But hey, rainbow holographic, it's crazy stuff. Okay, let's see here. All right, now I have that. Everything looks really murky and everything like that. But this is where I need to wash off my brush. Okay, we're going to lay down some some bleed-proof white on here. And turn it with a little splatter painting. As it's still wet there, I just left my fingerprint there. No matter, you just add it right back in like that, okay? And let's see. Let me go get this washed off, and let's see what some additional kind of effects will look like. It's kind of interesting. See, I love using this paper because at whatever angle you get these different colors like that. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, we have some bleed-proof white. Dr. Martin's bleed-proof white. Look that up. If you need to get some information off that, just type in Stampscapes and bleed-proof white in terms of how I use it. I have a video just dedicated to splatter painting. But I use this in a lot of different scenes for kind of a nice crisp addition of light texture into a scene as kind of a finishing touch, or one of the finishing touches. And we're just going to, if you haven't seen me use this before, I just kind of give it a little bit of I just release a couple bristles of the toothbrush at a time. Okay, I don't give it a big, flick. And I kind of just keep going back over. I don't go click, 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 click all the way down. I just have it, the ink or the paint kind of at the top of it in the front. I don't know, maybe 1/4, 1/3 of the brush. All right, that should do that. Do it. Dr. Martin's bleed-proof white. Don't leave home without it. Once you use it, it's hard to not use it on a bunch of scenes. In fact, I have to keep myself from using it too often. You can even use it on a daytime, high noon scene, blue skies, green grass, everything like that. What it represents, I don't know. It's just kind of texture in the sky or whatever, or across the entire landscape. But see those little flecks in there? See how opaque they are? It's because it's bleed proof. They're like completely opaque. Even the smallest little dot down there, it's really opaque. Okay, as opposed to translucent. The colors showing through it. So here you have some little texture that's standing up against the holographic. So see those little white dots in here? Don't they look three-dimensional, like they're hovering out in space in front of it? Look how fun that is. I even put it over here. In theory, that it would be in here, but I just like the looks of it out here too. So you can see it's over here on the cloud too. See this white I used over here more than in here. Okay, so you get things showing through. But look at this layering right in here of those trees now. You have the reverse impressions and the positive impressions in there. So just remove and then heat set and then stamp over it like that. So just kind of get, the feel of when to heat set to add additional inks, in terms of layering, or to add impressions over the top of it. But okay, so let's see. Let me go find my birds, which will serve as our visual focal points. I think, I don't know, you know, that's high order for them to do. Here's one of them. I use them a lot, so they're often like right on top of my desk. But that's, you know, it's a loud background in there. So let me go see if I can find my other one. Okay, we have our eagles. Now I can't stamp an eagle unless I do it in white over black. Okay, it's going to have to be black over, you know, light. So in areas where the silhouette of this eagle will show up, I will position it accordingly, okay? So let's go here. Okay, watch out now. Especially if your ink's still a little bit wet, but I heat set out there, so it should be fine. But sometimes if you're stamping, you know, a thick oil-based ink over... Now that didn't stick, that didn't go on there too well. It's because the white from the bleed-proof white is kind of raised. I'll show you what I got here. Okay, see that eagle right there? I could just wipe it off and try it again, but I'll show you what I do with that. Okay, let me try to get a better impression with this one right here. I can see my little dots on there. It looks like I've stamped out my little eagle over the top of bleed-proof white in another scene. You should really stamp these out first, you know, because those little dots of white are raised. Okay, so I might not have gotten a clean impression of my eagle over that. But let's go with this one right here. Okay. Oh, but what I was getting at, sometimes when you're stamping wet into wet, or something as slippery as a very thick ink onto a mirrored, you know, sealed surface like this, it can move on you if you press too hard, okay? I mean, it's not, you know, precarious or anything like that. Let me see if I can hold this down if it'll transfer more of that ink. I got that fisheye on the smallest of little elements, you know, with that first eagle. Ow, that was lousy. See it right here? See all that paint right there? That's all raised, so I can see all of my ink on here. It's still on the stamp. So it didn't make contact with that. Yeah, that's a bummer. I can draw it in. I don't want to draw it in, though. So do yours first. Before you hit it with the bleed proof. Okay, let me see. Okay, that's a little bit better. It's still fisheyed on me a little bit, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to fill in. We're going to do a little bit of repair work on that. It doesn't look bad, though. Okay, I'm going to fill in a little bit of that wing, okay, like that. And that's done. Now don't press too hard into it, okay? Press kind of, don't go so light that it doesn't, you miss your impression. But don't press so much so that the ink squeezes out. Actually, this is working just fine. Don't press so hard that the ink squeezes out from underneath and you get this reverse impression. Someone asked me about it recently and I thought, oh, that's a good question. I'm doing a certain pressure on this. Don't go gingerly with it, but don't press too hard with it. Otherwise, you're going to be, imagine this is the bottom of the stamp right here. All this ink is going to squeeze out like this, and then you're going to lift this up and there's going to be nothing here because all that ink just going to squish and it's squeezing out, okay? If you press too hard into a piece of paper that's absorbent, you're probably pressing the ink into the paper beyond the surface, but that's not going to happen on a foil like this. But anyways, that it worked just fine. I just kind of dabbed in there and our eagles are fine now, see? All right, so anyways, we have those in there like so. I think it needed it, right? You know, it needed some kind of focal point. And little birds like this are kind of fun. And I don't know, I have this kind of twirling thing, so I often use those two in conjunction with one another. It's like a pair. I don't know. It's kind of I use it for I don't know, like anniversary cards and stuff like that. You know, to have two birds. It's it's like a, I don't know, whatever symbolic or is it a I don't know whatnot. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's see. There's so many colors in here. If there was one kind of predominant color, like it was all blue or something like that, I might add a couple little highlights in there of, something specific. But, okay, now if we have our texture in here with the bleed-proof white, I mean, there's texture galore in here just from the stamps themselves, but see all these white little dots in here, okay? That's supposed to give you kind of depth, and it's supposed to look like infinity, okay, in my designs. But I think we can kind of improve on that even more, okay, with some additional little highlights. This is where we can get really specific with our application of something like this, We can go in and add larger dots. This is a white acrylic paint pen. It's always good to have one of these. And I know all of you feel the same way too, because this is the thing that I get asked about the most in terms of a good white pen. There's a lot of different ones out there, and I think I've mentioned it to people all the time, but I think it's all the same manufacturer, but under different brand names. This one happens to be the Meowsen, and I just got it because it was originally because it was the cheapest. You have to buy it in an 8-pack, but a 6-pack of these in a different brand was the same price as 6 of these, but then you get 2 black ones as well. So that's the only reason I got it, and I think these work fantastic. You just have to really shake it up every time. If you're viewers of this channel, regular viewers, you're getting sick of me saying that. You gotta shake it up, but I never know when someone's watching like one of these videos for the first time. And apparently the white paint pens are very sought after. It used to be a white gel pen, but I just think these acrylic ones work a little bit better. They also write on just about anything: glass, plastic, paper, of course, rocks even. Okay, like gel pens just don't do that. Although I like the quality of the gel pens these days, but I just think that the paint pens might be a little bit more universally applicable to things we're doing, the paper crafts, and card making. Although I should use some of my gel pens. They don't have every color. They don't have certain things like glitter and what are some of those gel pens? There's a lot of metallics in the gel, but there's just more. I mean, there's metallics in the acrylic paint pens, but there's more. There's so many more colors available in gel. Okay, so I'm adding a few little highlights on the insides of some of my billowy clouds like this. Do you see this right here? On the tops of the billows, on the undersides, because it's being lit from the inside. On these clouds down here, I could put some top billows. But see, these where I get into some of these larger dots like that. They're the hand-drawn ones. If you want a large dot, you just kind of scribble it or something like that in there. But see how look at that, how dimensional that looks. That bird, it's not super dimensional, three-dimensional, but it's reasonably. But especially see these dots right here. Doesn't it look like those dots are really hovering? And right in here too. Look at that. It's just so dynamic. I mean, I could put highlights on some trees too. Let's maybe do that. It's getting to be a little bit busy in here, so I don't want to do too much. I don't know, but there's certain things I could do to really mellow out the rainbow holographic and block out. I'd block out a ton more of the paper with that foundational coat of white. But, you know, the very nature of rainbow holographic paper, it's not something that you really use for its quiet, you know, it's not, it just not, it's not a quiet type of surface. So you get it for its kind of, you know, it's bold, you know, type of you know, visual statement that it can make. Okay, so anyways, I think that looks pretty good here. It's largely what I was going after. I didn't think I was going to get quite as deep looking in terms of the imagery down here. We have the reverse imagery, the white impression, which was, yeah, it's kind of weak. Silver probably would have worked better. And then we have the additional black tones there. I had never thought about doing those black ones, but that tree right there in black and these ones down here, it just balances it out so much better. And it's just so loud up here, and having just so much of that loud foil down here too. It was just, I don't know, it was just, having the darker trees down here to really anchors it from a visual standpoint and visual weight. So, and then we have our birds up there. Those little spiraling birds kind of amongst the, I don't know, whatever the celestial, you know, color range or whatnot. So anyways, I'll let this dry here and let it really set up. Maybe I'll spray seal it too before I format this into a card too. And this will be a nice big card for someone. Okay, so anyways, let's see. Oh, yeah, I'll let this, I'm going to let this dry overnight. It's already late at night here when I do a lot of my stamping. And I think it'll be ready to go in a few hours. And that's one of those things that's good about the Brilliance inks. All right, we'll see what we can come up with for a good mounting or color scheme around the edge. All right, we're here the next day. I've allowed this to dry. I didn't spray seal it because I'm out of my Krylon UV resistant clear, and I thought that my triple thick would be a little bit too thick on here, but it's okay to touch. It's not coming off, and it doesn't seem very fragile for me to format the card and you know, do the finishing touches on here. I will spray seal it when I get my triple UV resistant clear in. I get the gloss. But it has dried a little bit matte, and like I said, it'll come back with some spray. I've matted it, okay, or mounted it on this little thin layer of white around here, and then some gloss. It's really a deep navy, almost black, but black would look, you know, really good too. I just don't have any of it. And then I put on that same glossy dark cardstock on this quote right here. I thought that would go really well with the piece. And that quote was a little bit too big in here. I didn't want it to cover up some things, so, you know, you have it just kind of break in the frame. And I thought that looks pretty good on the outside like that. It's almost like it's hovering or something like that. It's not, but, you know, it gives that kind of illusion. I thought that looked the best outside of the kind of break in the frame like that. All right, now since we're already pretty extreme as far as our visuals here with the rainbow holographic cardstock and then the reverse impressions and everything. I thought we might as well take it, I don't know, what I consider all the way. Let's go with some crystals right here. These are just some assorted little crystals, and there's my pack it comes in. It's extremely affordable, and I don't know, these crystals I'm guessing will last me a really long time. I just use a little bit of a pin, and I put some of my glue onto a piece of whatever, scratch paper, and my glue is really thick, so it's like picking up a little glob of it for each little crystal. Now I'm not going to go, this is a nice piece right here because it's so loud. I'm going to go with some fairly large crystals that I hardly ever use, especially on like a quarter-size piece of paper. But this is a pretty big and loud piece, so I figured some some of the larger crystals in this pack would be well suited for that. I just used up a big glob of glue on those two little dots right there. Let me get some more of this. I might even just be able to go straight on to the thing. Sometimes I don't like doing that because when I come up like this, it's like mozzarella cheese or something like that, and then it gets this big string, then it lays down on the side, so I get this, kind of streak in there, which I don't want. So I just find this is a little bit more exacting. And it's just easy to do. It's just one extra little step here, but, so even when I go like that, it kind of gets a little bit stringy. Okay, so it's hard to see on here. I can see it if I kind of tilt it at an angle where my
glue beads are. And let's go for 5. For some reason 5 used to be, I don't know, I wouldn't call it my lucky number. Maybe that kind of stood out to me for some reason.
Okay, so I have 5 little dots there. I keep this little pin just for convenience sake right in the glue, since I never use this wide applicator down there anyway. I just stick this right in here, and I always have it. I'm not searching around for it everywhere. Okay, so this is my little, or not real little, but gem picker, something like that. There's this little rubber tip on there. Pick it up like that. Makes it really convenient. Okay, let me show you where you can see that glue on there if I can. See that? See those? I don't know if you can see it there. Oh, there we go. See those 5 glistening dots like that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And you just put them wherever you want accordingly. Now, like I said, I'm going fairly bold. Why don't we go for a couple of these fairly large ones here? That is really big. Let's go for another one. I go big, 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 big. And then let's go for a few smaller ones. I won't go too small, though. I mean, it'd be interesting to just totally encrust this in some, minor details, but I don't want to do that. I don't feel like adding, 20 crystals on here. I think this should be a decent enough statement. We shall see. Could I have a couple a little bit closer than one another? Nah, okay, I just said that. These are all fairly evenly spaced. If you just kind of have like 1 or 2 slightly grouped, so like around one of these bigger ones, maybe I'll put like another smaller star. Maybe it'll look like a, one of these larger crystals could be a planet, and maybe one of these smaller little crystals could be a moon around it, or whatever, I mean, these are little subtle, little additions, so. Okay, always close your thing so you don't go boom, and it's all over your desk, whatever. Okay, now that was my opening up here. I mean, you could add some down here, just, I don't know, it'd be like, whatever, moon dust or something like that, coming down like this. Yeah, those are fairly loud. I don't know, maybe they're too big, but I don't think so. See, this is like looking at your piece at, arm's length, and see, you can see those little crystals in there. They're standing out quite a bit. If you look at it like this, they do stand out quite a bit. But like back in here, see, look at that. Those little fun little things. I always say on my pieces, if you do something that kind of, it takes you back to like being a kid, if you got something like this, and you saw something like this, they have those little books where you press a button on the side and it's, there's little LEDs in there kind of twinkling or something like that. But, these little things that get people to do this is fun stuff, when people hold a piece up. Look at those little things like that. You know what I mean? That's what you do as an illustrator. an illustration, when people are flipping through magazines or driving along the street or something like that, the success rate or the measure of success is if you can grab someone's attention for like 2 seconds, as they're flipping through a magazine or something like that, you're competing with all kinds of different ads and visuals and photographs of people, there's kind of visual anchor points on every page, every street, there's a really lot of stuff on there. So if you can get someone to, like get this and, oh, like look at that like that, then you've done your, you've achieved your goal, basically, in terms of a, visual medium. And then if you get people to kind of really explore things kind of on a much more in-depth level or whatnot, it's, you've really kind of done your job as a, I don't know, whatever, as a visualist or whatnot, a card maker. Um, And personally, I mean, I'm thinking about that when I'm adding this type of thing down, but I'm really doing it for me too, because, it's just adding that type of thing. It's just fun. So, I have to kind of please myself in terms of the process. When I get done with this, I don't know. I usually don't think about these things too much afterwards, unless I've learned something from it. For me, it was the reverse impressions down here. I thought that would be enough. Just in theory. Well, I didn't really think about it. I just figured I'd do that. But for me, just kind of doing that alone, in this scene at least, it really required those kind of anchor point trees. So I wasn't thinking about that, adding and layering, and hopefully I remember that for the future, the next time I do it, so I can employ that, that type of technique or process into a technique. Right here, it was just kind of making do and just kind of ad-libbing as I went along. But I don't know, it's all fun stuff. So here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if I should add in some additional kind of white embellishment, with some pigment ink on here, just to make some areas kind of pop out a little bit more. Remember, I laid down the white before I stamped the clouds in there, so I didn't really know where the clouds were going to be until I did it. You can't really plan for that. You can just kind of give it a base coat and then just stamp right over it and just, you can see what you have. I didn't even know exactly where the clouds were going to go and the Milky Way and whatnot. But that being said, I think let's give it a try here. I know there's a lot of finishing little touches right here, but these are those little types of tweaks they're really fun to do and add in there. Potentially, I should say. Let's take a look and see how this one goes. Now, I didn't spray seal this, so I'm hoping that I don't lift the black, in addition to transferring the white, okay? Let's see how it goes, okay? A little bit harsh here, kind of fraying this and making the tip a lot softer, okay? Blot it off a little bit. I don't know how wet my white pad is. Okay, but adding these to some of these little billows in here. I think it looks pretty good. It's really kind of subtle. If you start doing this, remember just to have a very dry brush application. It's so subtle for me that looking at this right here, I mean, I barely see it with a couple taps, but then as I add more and more, I can see that application of it being revealed. And I'm just doing one little billow at a time, okay? I don't have to do it over 500 billows or something like that. There's not even that many here, but, just adding it into this entire cloud area right here. I mean, what did that take? It took like, I don't think did it even take 1 minute? I don't know if it did. But those are those little, subtle little tweaks, When someone gets to a certain level, if they want some kind of advice, I'll take a look at their pieces and I'll think, okay, from a lighting type of context, this is what you can do, okay? So what you're doing is you're just kind of, by doing that, you're adding, here's the values, dark, light. That's our visual range, okay? So I might be suggesting that they go that, making it that much, a little bit lighter, okay? It's just this little tweak, but that can make a big difference because when you make something this much lighter, by contrast, you're moving your darkness scale this way because everything's, we perceive by contrast, okay? But also from a textural standpoint, that looks a little bit softer there. Let's see if we can compare and contrast. See that right there? That's what it looks like. There's white, then the black cloud, and then a little bit of white over it. Now see the difference between this and this? That looks a little bit softer and a little bit more, I don't know, it's like a slightly deeper. I like that too, though. So maybe, maybe I don't add too much of it over here, okay? So that you have some of it, but then some of the clouds are just as is, okay? So you can do that too. You don't have to add it everywhere. Or you can add it in one spot and don't do it in another. It's just whatever you want. Okay, now remember that white's going to dry a little bit. Now see where I put it up there? It's really soft, but look at this. That's just left as is. So I think from kind of a textural standpoint, that little touch looks pretty good. Let's add a little bit more of a softer cloud down here. I think I don't have too much of a kind of a glowing look down here, but let's add a little bit down here. I'm adding it in the lighter area, because this is white. And I'm just kind of embellishing in this area. I'm not trying to change anything drastically. I'm just doing little tweaks here and there. So little tweaks, little details, little subtle little kind of additions. You add it in a subtle way, okay? So don't go bold, okay? Just go, a little bit of time. Here's a star in the Milky Way stamp. See those stars like that? Those little twinkly ones, okay? What I'm doing is just I'm adding a little bit of a soft application of white around them so that those stars look like they're glowing now. This is one way you can kind of create gray or variations of that ink from, just white here by adding kind of a translucent little glow like that. So look at that. See it from a textural standpoint? We have that softness in there, but if you look at it close, you can still see the star forms through that glowing haze. But look at those little stars. Aren't those fun? Those crystals in there? You probably have some crystals on you, or you might have some kind of glitter. If you have glitter stars or something like that, you can put them in here too. Like a 5-point star, something like that. It would kind of give it more of the spirit of like a children's book, but I love children's books and illustrations, It doesn't have to be like a, I don't know if this is called realistic. I do try to make my drawings look realistic, but we can take it out of that spirit and move it more into the whimsical by like a little, little twinkly little 5-point stars in here. You can even do it with a white pen or whatnot. You can do a North Star in here. I already have, those little points in here like that. But you can add bigger ones and so on and so forth. Okay, so anyways, I think that'll do it on this piece. I had a really good time, and I don't know, I learned a lot. We ran into a few things here and there, with the splatter painting and the birds not stamping out, terribly distinct, but, just kind of filling them in. This one I just kind of wiped off that area. It doesn't look bad, right? Looks the same. You just wipe it off. That's what's good about this ink. It's like, what other types of... You can't do that on cardstock or anything like that, We use plain paper, okay? Yeah, well, I do too, but, and I love it. But this is like a different type of process right here. So I don't know of any other type of surface, and media combinations where you can really, just change things up, if not just completely erase and start over again. It's like a dry erase board or something like that when you're working with, pigment inks on foils. So there's a lot of leeway. You don't like this whole area, wipe off the bottom and then just redo it or something like that. You like the top, then just leave it, Don't like those clouds, wipe them off, restamp them, put your, additional touches on there and it's ready to go. So it's pretty fun stuff. But that being said, if you want to heat set these things, the heat set in a few seconds. This one right here, I stamped it in the Brilliance White just before I started shooting this video. And that took, I don't know, it was fairly thick on some of those letter forms. So I would say it took like a minute to do it, because I kept changing it from over here to over here, kind of not wanting to just blast it in one area. So anyways, just really fun stuff. And, you know, it's a different feeling if you haven't done this before on this type of surface with these types of inks. But allow it to kind of set up and what and see it as kind of like it's almost like you're working with I don't know like a three-dimensional medium or something like that where you're kind of pushing things around and you're working with this malleable type of thing, you know, as if you were doing like a sculptural form or something like that with clay or something like that. So see it as something like that and not something as a like a definitive application of ink or you know, alcohol inks where it's drying instantly, okay? You're going to get it all over your fingers. I don't know. See that as like a good thing. Or try to. Expect it. And then if you have really clean fingers, you know, uh, doing it, then all, you know, all the more power to you. But let's take a look at these different colors right here. Okay. So I can go this way. Look at that. It's almost like silvery. But then if I go like this, look at that. It's like this aqua look. And this is like rainbows. It's like transforming there.